Welcome to Bible study. This is the study we're preparing for St. Michael's Lutheran Church on the Sunday of January 26 in 2025. If you have your Bible handy, I'd encourage you to open it to Proverbs chapter 4, because we're going to start there. In chapters 2 and 3, Solomon had given us three basic principles of wisdom. He had surrounded them with effusive praise of wisdom, but there were three things that he put in there that were essential to it. And the first of them was that wisdom came from without. It was something God put into your heart. It was God's equity and justice and righteousness that were the guiding principles of true wisdom, not me. That meant I had to come with a second element, and that is a measure of humility. That I don't make myself into the center of this picture, but rather it is God who lives in the middle of this picture. And even when he disciplines me, even when he makes my life difficult, and sometimes he does, I take that not as God rejecting me, but rather as God loving me. And then finally, what the psalmist, or what the proverbialist says, what Solomon says is that I am contingent upon God. And that means that I don't have to take to myself the solving of all the problems. That he is the one who does that. That allows me to go to sleep at night because I am in God's hands. Wrapped around all of this were this very intentional connection to all the facets of life, whether that's emotional, relational, economic, political, all kinds of ways of life. It all connects. And it is that point which we really want to draw on today. And that is that the psalmist really rejects the modern idea of compartmentalization. We have a penchant in our world to live our life as if we have compartments within it. I oftentimes think of those, well, they're not so popular anymore, those magazines that were popular when I was a child, like Time and Newsweek and things. They always had a religion editor, and they had a sports editor, and they had a political section, and they had a world news section, and you had all of these discrete areas. And we tend to live our life as if we have home and work and marriage, and we have all of these different parts of our life, religion being one of them. What Solomon is going to assert thoroughly through this is that those barriers, those boundaries which we draw, are utterly false. There's just you. And you are the same person who goes to work as who comes home at night to your family and to your spouse. You are the same person who lives politically, who lives as a neighbor, it's all just one you. Now that's obvious to us, and yet we oftentimes spend a lot of our effort in life cultivating these different me's, these different pictures of me that we present to the world. Solomon says no, there's just one you. And in chapters 4 and 5, which we're going to read today, he takes that into probably the most important central element of our human existence, and that is our very life and those relationships we have with the people who are most dear to us, particularly our spouse. We start with chapter 4. Hear, O sons, a father's instruction, and be attentive that you may gain insight. For I give you good precepts. Do not forsake my teaching. When I was a son, with my father, tender, the only one in the sight of my mother, he taught me and said to me, let your heart hold fast to my words, keep my commandments, and live. Get wisdom, get insight, do not forget, do not turn away from the words of my mouth. You have this kind of piling up of this exhortation at this point, but I think it's really important to notice Solomon's framing of this. When I was a child, when I was the son of my mother and my father, and I was of a tender age. Well, remember, Solomon is the son of David. His mother is Bathsheba. He is the second son of Bathsheba. The first one she had died because it was a result of God's judgment upon David for the sin of adultery and murder and all of these things, where David thought he could compartmentalize his life and have a personal life and a public life, and that those two things didn't cross over. And as a result, Solomon's older brother died. So these words where he says, listen to my instruction that I got from my dad. We are learning from the mistakes of others. Listen to this, hold fast to it, and live. Solomon's not just speaking in sort of a hyperbolic metaphor here. This is what his parents went through. Don't forsake her, and she will keep you. Love her, and she will guide you. The her here is wisdom. Get wisdom and insight. Don't turn away. The beginning of wisdom is this: get it, and whatever you get insight. Prize her highly. She will exalt you. She will honor you if you embrace her. She will place your head in a graceful garland. She will bestow on you a beautiful crown. All of this, wisdom in almost every language is a feminine noun. Most languages assign gender to all their nouns. And wisdom is almost always feminine. And so whenever you have whenever Solomon starts talking about this her, he's almost always talking about wisdom. And yet, as we move forward, it's not just wisdom. This her is a very specific her. Hear, my son, accept my words, that the years of your life may be many. I've taught you the way of wisdom. I've led you in the paths of uprightness. When you walk, your step will not be hampered. And if you run, you will not stumble. Keep hold of instruction. Don't let go. Guard her, for she is your life. Do not enter the path of the wicked. Do not walk in the way of the evil. Avoid it. Don't go there. Turn away from it. Pass on. They cannot sleep unless they've done wrong. They're robbed of sleep unless they've made someone stumble. They eat the bread of wickedness, and they drink the wine of violence. But the path of righteousness is like the light of dawn, which shines brighter and brighter until full day. The way of the wicked is deep darkness. They don't know over what they stumble. He's priming us here for what he's going to say in chapter 5. That this is the wisdom he is talking about here will be a wisdom which is really going to be something that causes you to stumble or to walk. If you follow it, you will walk. If you don't, it's not going to go well. He continues in that vein for the rest of the chapter, verses 20 through 27. He talks about how put away from you all this crooked speech, ponder the path of your feet, don't swerve to the right or to the left. Keep on this path. This is really important. Chapter 5. So my son, be attentive to my wisdom, and incline your ear to my understanding, that you may keep discretion and your lips may guard knowledge. For the lips of a forbidden woman drip honey, and her speech is smoother than oil. But in the end she is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps follow the path to Sheol. She does not ponder the path of life, her ways wander, and she does not know it. He's going to start talking about here the marriage relationship. The forbidden woman here is an adulteress. And remember, this is advice given to young men. This is advice given to the young nobles. And it's not just a modern affliction of those of power and influence and material that they oftentimes stumble in this regard. And it was true in the ancient world too. So he says, don't follow, don't listen. It'll sound great. Her lips will be smooth as oil and honey, and it will sound so good, and it will be so bitter. Listen to me. Don't depart from the words of my mouth. Keep her far away. Don't go near the door of her house. Lest you give honor to others in your years to the merciless, lest strangers take their fill of your strength and your labors go to the house of a foreigner. And at the end of your life you groan when your flesh and body are consumed, and you say, oh, how I hated discipline, and my heart despised reproof. I didn't listen to the voice of my teachers, or incline my ear to my instructors. And I am at the brink of utter ruin in the assembled congregation. In the ancient world, they had alimony too. These merciless men who are going to take your life, or the years of your life from you, are the people who are going to, because of what you have done, they're going to extract payment. In the ancient world, all marriages were really a financial, economic contract. And so if one broke that contract, the bride and her family would sue, and they would bring you to court, and you would have the benefit of that contract extracted from you. In much the same way that today we have laws and we garnish wages, and we have courts that are there to protect the fairness and the livelihood of people who have been cheated on, or who have the same thing happen to them. He talks about these years of your life. I have a neighbor right now who is working well into his 70s, in large part because he had an affair and his marriage was destroyed. And in order to meet those obligations that he had to the woman that he betrayed, he's working way past retirement age. Praise God, he can do it. But do you think about those years, that the years of your life will be consumed by this? Rather, he offers us a word of wisdom. Drink water from your own cistern. And he's going to use some really interesting metaphors here, and picture language. And flowing water from your own well. Have a relationship with your wife and no one else. Should your springs be scattered abroad and the streams in the street, let them be for yourself alone and not for strangers. And let your fountain be blessed, and rejoice in the wife of your youth, the lovely deer, a graceful doe. Let her breasts fill you at all times with delight, and be intoxicated always in her love. Notice the Old Testament is very earthy. It sees us as whole human beings. It doesn't let us have this sort of spiritualized picture of our lives. No, he's talking here very much about a living, active, intimate relationship with your wife. Why should you be intoxicated, my son, with a forbidden woman, and embrace the bosom of an adulteress? A man's ways are before the eyes of the Lord, and he ponders all his paths. The iniquity of the wicked ensnare him, and he is held fast in the cords of his sin. And he dies for a lack of discipline, because his great folly he is led astray. It's very interesting that Solomon says, don't have this affair. This is going to bite you hard. And it's true. It doesn't stop many people, but it is true that many who have these affairs end up being profoundly miserable in all manner of different ways. And yet they do it. Their lips really are like honey, and they drip honey, and their words are as smooth as oil. and yet it is bitterness and wormwood. Solomon knows this firsthand. He has seen this. He is, in fact, the child of that second woman, that second marriage, and he knows its pain. He exhorts the young men of Jerusalem and us to lives of chastity, to lives of faithfulness and promise keeping to one another. He says God is watching over all of this. He knows. But he really says that it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. Avoid it. Stop. Think. Keep far away from that temptation. Love the one whom God has given you. This is wise. We'll see you on Sunday. Hope to talk with you more about it.